So everyone, this session is especially for you EO members. Our next speaker is our CEO, Dave Parker. It will be all around AI at EO. So if you have any questions for Dave, put them in the chat. This session is really for you. Dave is going to talk for a few minutes about the AI strategy at EO, and then we want to have this this talk actually is an interactive session. Really, please pay attention. This is your chance to ask our CEO about the AI strategy at EO. Dave.
Well, I'm Helga. Thank you, by the way, because I'm cognizant of Helga's comment about making stuff up or not making a lot of stuff up. And I think that one of the things that we're, as you guys know, and all know from being around EO, we're hardly early adopters historically. So I think as we look at AI, the question is where are the opportunities for us to take more action more quickly, where we can add member value. Ultimately, this as a member organization, right? The question is, are we spending the members' money well? And how do we answer for that return on investment? That doesn't mean we can wait on AI. Just because the organization doesn't move at AI speed or close to it, doesn't mean we can be not moving closer to AI speed in areas where we can take action. So I don't know that I'll have a lot of answers for you necessarily, but I'll promise you that I won't be making stuff up or, in Helga's comment, making a lot of stuff up. So I think that's a good place to start for context. If you weren't on the earlier comments at the start of the broadcast, I think there's a number of areas where we have opportunities to respond in AI, especially around member profiles and helping members to find other members and to find their tribe more quickly. I got a text message from somebody in the midst of those comments that said, you know, we used to have this thing called a skills database. And I think the idea of the skills database is actually quite awesome because you could be like, I need some resources from somebody in EO who's really good at this specific thing. It could be go-to-market, it could be legal, it could be, not necessarily one of the professions, but the idea that I need a particular skills index, but the desire and the technology hadn't mapped up. So I think there's an opportunity for us to say, hey, now that the technology can actually do it, where would we want to start? So I'm real curious to get your all feedback around prioritizing some of those things, because I think my first two in my mind that I'm thinking through is how do we create a coach for our member companies to go from X to Y? Right? Most of the new members who are coming in the early stage, it would be great in our value proposition if we could say the average new member coming into EO grew their business at 84.7%, pick the number out of the air, by the way, in the first 2 years. And because I think from an external perspective, it's grow my business, grow my network, grow myself. The internal perspective, once you're a member, is a little bit more nuanced. So, but the value proposition having to be clear on the outside would be amazing. So I would start with, how do we build an AI coach to help you grow your business? And the second one is how do we build the AI to help you find your people faster? So those are the two big starting points when I think about the data sets that we need and how we actually create the give and get pieces of data. So Marcus, I'll hand it back to you for questions and however you want to start this Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good, Robert.
Yeah, one of the questions that pops up immediately with me is how do EO staff members look at all these EO AI transitions within EO? Because it may help them to improve their function and their work, but also they can also be replaced by AI. Or am I mistaken?
Yeah, I don't think replacement is on the near term. I think more broadly, rather than staff question first, more broadly, my sense is jobs change, right? And the creativity of jobs change, but some of the functions change as well. So for me, that's an exciting opportunity. But I also think about the amount of what we need to bring to the member in the form of member value, and that's the connection first. And the idea of like listening first and how do we engage around, we've always been a member-led, staff-executed organization. I think there's in so many ways we continue to do the same. I think it changes a little bit that says, how do we co-create the future together, right? Because ultimately the staff has, if you think about the rapid process, right, you have recommended, well, it doesn't follow a linear fashion of rapid, but from the P perspective, we have to produce. right? There's an agreement perspective, but there's also a co-creation opportunity for us. And I think as we co-create the future, the team and the staff team is always responsible for the deliver, but how we co-create the future and how we involve the members is super critical to it. So I've heard both sides of that. So I think the roles may change. We'll see some change in what people do, but I don't think the staff count goes down as we go right now for everybody's baseline. We're at roughly 160 employees at roughly 70 million in revenue with we just crested 19,000 members. So I think as we go from 19,000 to 35,000, if we hit the goals that the board has set out for 2030, the first goal is 95% retention. I think retention is also connection. So I think what they do changes, but I don't think the need for staff count will go down. We have to look for where we scale, however. To go from 18,000 to 35,000 doesn't mean we're going to go from 160 employees to 320 employees, because that wouldn't be a scalable way to grow. Historically, as a services business, obviously that would be the way you look at it, but we have to look at it differently, and AI gives us the chance to do that.
So do we get a more efficient organization?
I think the answer is yes, but the question is always there's people involved. So I think if we don't, so you guys, if you saw one of my videos recently, I made the comment about we don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems, which is taken from Atomic Habits, and he'll be a speaker in the next couple of weeks. I think one of the things we have to look at is we can be a more efficient organization if we design the systems better. I think some of our systems are very historic, and I think we need to redesign those as we think about 2030. So the answer is we will become a more efficient system. I think it will look different than it looks today. And I would say part of the challenge is how do we get comfortable with that rate of change? Some people in any organization love change. They're the minority. And most people in organizations are like, and this is a historic big change for us, right? As we think about how we use AI. So one of the things we'll be doing that I've done at other big organizations in the past, for some of you may not know, I used to be the COO and senior VP of programs at Startup Weekend. And we did events in my last 18 months there before we sold it to Techstars. We did 1,265 events worldwide in 120 countries. So we've taken a version of that Startup Weekend event, and we've done it a bunch in corporations in my last engagements in my consulting world, where we would do a week-long innovation week using AI to answer problem questions within the organization. So you'll see that will happen first for the team, and then you'll see it happen with the team and member leaders, where the prompt is actually fairly large, right? Which is, hey, go use AI to fix this problem, right? Find a problem within your segment of the organization, fix the problem using AI. It's not necessarily about the AI fix. It's more about getting everybody's heads around how does AI change the world for me? And what we found in doing those events in multiple months, right, is people come away going like, wow, I was scared of this, and now I understand what it can do for me and what it can do for the organization. That's the starting point where we are right now.
Thank you.
Louis, I think we have a question.
Thank
Hi,
you,
Louis.
Dave.
How are you?
I'm good, Dave. It's great to have you here. I was thinking about, we are on 30 years old plus now in EO. We have this strategic growth goals of both growing the membership, actually almost doubling it, as you were saying, but also a strategic goal of improving the value that members get in the EO experience, right? So my question would be, have you thought about of how are you looking at exploiting and taking a look at all the data that we have from all these years into how can we grow more and better? How do we provide more value to our members? What resonates better with us, etc. Learning from what has worked and what has not worked in the past.
Yeah, I love that question, Louis. I had a demo 2 nights ago from a company that's using unstructured data to pull over 10K and 10Q data on financial analysis of the thing that they're using is we have a challenge with structured data and unstructured data. Today, we have a lot of data, but it's super unstructured. So the first step we're making in it organizationally is we brought in a data librarian on a contract basis to look at how we normalize and tag the data so we can start to use our data as a RAG against the LLM. So for those folks who aren't familiar with the RAG, the concept there is it's really just a third-party data set. LLMs get frozen at a point in time, and they don't necessarily have our data. So for example, as an author, my website is DK Parker, it references my book. Because it's trademarked, it wasn't part of the LLM. But if I want to tell the system to write content in the voice of Dave Parker using his book, I could actually upload to my website and I could upload the content of my book in a PDF and say, write this blog content or the social media content in the voice of Dave Parker, right? So lots of great tools to do that right now. So what we're working on first is let's go tag the data that we know we need to tag and clean up because it will help us as a starting point for a third-party data set. The second piece then becomes how do we learn what other AI groups are doing against unstructured data sets, and how do we apply it here? So I think there's three fundamental models for us with the data. Lewis is structured data, which we have today, and historic. Unstructured data, which we have, but it's, give you an example, historically we didn't have data around sector data for the companies in the organization. And we need that sector data to be a pick list, not a free-form field. Or data is entered, revenue is entered in rupees, not in dollars, or dollars, not in yen. So how we normalize some of those data structures are going to be certain. It's just the data taxonomy issue. And then the last one is how do we do the give to get data, right? Which is, hey, member, if you give us this data, we'll give you back a report and we'll give you back a response. So those are the three data sets that I see that we have some data there today. I would say it's not particularly great. The unstructured data and how we get to it faster is super interesting to me, which is why I saw the demo last week or this week with against financial data, because financial data is more generally unstructured data. And how do you find, how do you, for example, run the report and reference that this data is pulled from that particular document from a 10K from this publicly traded company from 3 years ago, right? So how we reference source data becomes super interesting.
Thank you.
Lots of work to do.
We're here to help.
I love it. I love that there's greater magnitude nerds than me asking great questions about the same thing, which is part of what I love about EO is I get to present a set of questions and problems to be solved, and I don't have to be the one who solves it. So there's smarter brains than mine.
Cool. I think we have another smart question. Eduard.
First of all, Dave, sorry for chasing you on 3 continents to be a part of this event. That is
I'm happy to be
case.
there.
Sorry for that. AI and EO, it's super interesting. We have over 80 products in EO. And I think we could use AI to create a sort of a Netflix-like algorithm that we know what our members will like before they even know what's going on. So what is your thoughts on that? Would this be a thing, would it be viable in the next couple of years to create something like a predictive model that you see the things that are relevant for you as a member?
Yeah, I think it's super useful. I also think it maps to one of the things we're building right now, which is, for those of you who come from a customer journey perspective, you'll be like, oh, Dave's a product guy from software that does customer journeys. And the answer is you're absolutely spot on. We're just calling it member journey. The start of the member journey process isn't super complex, right? It's really saying, when I think about my first startup, so just from everybody knows a little bit about my background. So I've done 5 startups of my own where I was the founder. The first one I grew from 0 to 32 million in sales in 4 years. The questions I asked at $1 million business were way different than the questions I asked at 10 and way different than when I exited at 32. So the idea there is how do we use customer journey as part of the profile of the member that says, and we'll get elegant over time. Initially, it's a dull, blunt object, dangerous at close range, right? But honestly, if we start there, it's still a better place than we have right now because we have a kind of a one size fits all, one price fits all, one service fits all model without a lot of intelligence. So I think as we start to look at the member journey in the process, I come in, I'm $1 million, I need to get to 3 million because $1 million doesn't mean what it meant 20 years ago when some of you joined, right? It's not the badge of leadership and it's not the free cash flow that gets you to go do some of those things. So how do we help folks go from this piece of their journey to that piece of their journey? When you're a tenured member or maybe you've exited the company, you're asking a whole different set of questions. So when I think about starting with member profile, member journey first, and then coming back and saying, are our products meeting the needs of the members at each step of their member journey? That's where the mapping opportunity comes in my mind, right? And getting the feedback and increasing the feedback loops and not, I wrote a book about startups, and one of the things I wrote about was pricing. And one of the things I observed with pricing models in general, and by the way, just to give you guys a nerd sense on this one. So somebody asked me, hey, how many, can I have a copy of your financial model? And I was like, well, I'm a community guy, so I'm happy to give it to you. But my business is a B2B SaaS business, and your business is a B2B2C business, which is a marketplace. And we use the same phrases and terms, but the models are different. So it got me on this question of, well, how many revenue models are there used in tech? Because that's my bias by background. Come to find out, there's 14. How did we get to 14? We did a longitudinal study of 2,654 companies, and excuse a little bit of my OCD because I tend to be precise. So a few weeks ago, when somebody said, we're at 19,000 members, I'm like, we're at 18,964. And that's just me. So you kind of put up with it. But we tracked 2,654 companies over a 5-year longitudinal study and looked how they made money. And I think that the opportunity here is to do similar sort of data work, right? There's time required to get the data, and then we can map it better to those member needs. It's not elegant initially, but it becomes elegant over time. To your point on Netflix, right? It's like Dave likes to watch this sort of thing. It's easy to predict. In the early days, it was like, can we send you these discs in the mail? So yeah, I don't think it won't look like a DVD in the mail, but I think we could be better than that.
Thanks, Dave. Another hobby horse of yours is the Accelerator program. What are your ideas about accelerators and AI? I think we have a lot to learn, and these accelerators are often way ahead of us old farts in the world of AI. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, just so everybody's clear on the messaging and from the start here, we want to focus on the retention first, but we recognize Accelerator as a paid customer acquisition channel for us. So today there's about 8,000 accelerators in the world. And that word means something different than it meant 20 years ago or whenever we started using it the first time. There's also probably 3,000 or 4,000 university programs. So ChatGPT would tell you there's 2,000 plus an unknown number. By the way, if you want to check the data source on that one, it's always a ChatGPT 4 question. Which means that the model has evolved around us and a bit lapped us, right? So when I think about what the need of the market is relative to this, is I think you could take some of the stuff we were talking about with that AI coach backed with our data and go out to some of the folks that are not members yet and say, if you want to pay us on a monthly subscription, you could to do that, which would help us identify the right companies to invite to EO, as well as identify them early so that they can come on and actually benefit from your experience. I think one of the things that's fascinating to me about EO and the draw for me as an entrepreneur coming in as CEO, because a lot of you, the consistent question is, hey, how's this whole having a job thing, right? And it's kind of humorous that way. But the question I always get is, I remember when I was the first-time founder and I felt alone and I was making payroll and I'm making decisions, and then you found a tribe, right? You found a bunch of people like you. And you're like, oh shit, oh heck, I'm no longer alone, right? And that connection to people who have had the whole process of like, we feel like this is a lonely sport, but it doesn't have to be. So if we can help, I think less about Accelerator, more about how do I help our people find us faster, than mission accomplished, right? Whether that comes in with an accelerator program or how you get into go from $1 million to 3 million, or how we retain you better. I think the answer there is, are we helping people meet that need of not being alone? Because at a heart level, being an entrepreneur feels like a lonely sport, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Wonderful.
Marcus?
I see Robert. You have a question.
I do have a question. Dave, can you share a bit? Can you share a bit on the roadmap that you've chosen to follow to implement AI within EO?
Oh, sure. So one, I'll give you a big difference in how we're doing it versus how it's been done in the past. And for those of you who are geeky as well, you'll understand why. In the past, I think we made big announcements about stuff we were spending money on, but we didn't deliver. I know that's not a surprise to you all because you've been here more than me. So what we're doing now is the roadmap, and I'm happy to share it out with the follow-on documents for this one as well. What we're doing is we're going through and capturing customer requirements. So it's crazy stuff like product PRDs, for those of you who are in product, right? Product requirement docs, and capturing customer requirements and looking at what are we going to deliver relative to those PRDs for member value. And one rolled out last weekend, and we had no tickets on it over the course of the whole weekend. So we cut over to Okta and for single sign-in. Now we had one ticket, and that was 225 people at a president's meeting I think it was in Okinawa, tried to log in together at the same time. So we got a DDoS alert and they shut them down. But other than that ticket, it rolled out flawlessly. So big underlying component here is roll out, roll out, roll out. So we're focusing on, do we have the right people engaged? Are we testing in the first 5 chapters? Are we going from 5 chapters to 20 chapters? Do we capture the feedback and make sure our rollouts are rock solid? Because if we just have technology but nobody uses it, you guys know it's a huge problem. So rollouts, staging rollouts, working with the willing and the participants is the underlying theme. Now, when you cut over to what the roadmap is, the new single sign-in also gives us the ability to do a global user ID or GUID. So the GUID allows us to track anonymous users without being connected to your phone number or your email address, which will allow us to report back data with anonymity. Now, people will still be hesitant about it. I totally get it. But the idea is we had to have that infrastructure in place to work. The second piece is we're building out new profiles. So we've sunsetted the old CRM. We're building on the Microsoft system that sits behind it is an association-based system. We don't use it like CRM to do sales. We use it as a system of record. Single sign-in in the system of record means if you sign up for an event, you'll have a single sign-in. If you go to an event and attend, you'll have a single sign-in. So we're tying all those pieces together so that now with your profile, we have everything about your profile that's been associated with you that you want to have associated with you. As you all know, we can't tell entrepreneurs what to do, right? My standard phrase here is, if I tell an entrepreneur what to do, we're met with 3 2-word answers: F that, F you, and watch me. So being one, I get that. So if you want to opt in, you can opt in. If you don't want to opt in, you don't have to. So single sign-in fixes that. Start of building profiles, fix that. We haven't historically been able to track leads. So, we're entrepreneurs, so we tend towards vanity metrics. So like we get leads from members and we're really good at converting those leads. In September, I rolled a data deck to the board that was 57 pages. And it was our conversion metrics, our churn metrics, our conversion by, chapter size, our conversion by demographic. And at one point, somebody said, "Where are you leading us?" I'm like, "I'm not leading us anywhere." This is the point when you look in the mirror, you grab the mirror and say, "This is the reality." So last year, we grew by net 2.47% or 474 members. So we squeezed a lot of fruit to not get a whole lot of juice. So having that data then allows us to track forecast versus actual. So now we're implementing a system that allows us to look at budget spend versus forecast, so that every month I can meet with the budget owners and say, because you guys know organizationally, we don't want to end with underspend where people said, "Hey, we were going to do X, but we didn't do it." We want to make sure we're delivering member value, and underspend for us is a question of not delivering member value. Right. So if we said we're going to do an event in your local chapters and the chapter didn't do it, the question is the members didn't get great value for it. So the next one past profiles then becomes tracking those leads. So the leads are going to be tracked on HubSpot. That allows us to look at conversion metrics, get you into another nerdy topic for me. So I think when I'm a big fan of unit economics, so I want to look at what our conversion rate is, what's our time to close, what are the efficiency by channel. So product market fit in my world is you look at traffic at the top of the funnel, you look at leads as a percentage of traffic, you look at customer account as a percentage of leads, you look at time to close should be trending down, and you look at average revenue per user should be trending up. In our case, since we have one price, average revenue per user won't change, right? But those other 4 factors matter a lot. So since we launched the new publicly facing website, our overall traffic is up, we're now working on call to actions that convert to leads that actually get to the chapter level, so that we can actually track conversion of those leads and source of the leads. Then we can track back to spend and cost of customer acquisition. Ultimately, that comes down to LTV to CAC ratio, and it's LTV to CAC ratio by channel. So sorry for those of you who are not nerds on this. Customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, also in our business is more lifetime revenue. So because we have this weird anniversary renewal thing, we can't really track cohort analysis yet. So one of the systems we're launching is a new payment platform. We're not cutting over to anniversary-based renewals yet, but in about a year, we'll have the ability to do so. With that ability, it'll allow us to track cohort analysis. When we can track cohort analysis by channel, then it gives us great insight into what channels are our most productive channels and create the best members. So those are a few things that we're in the process of rolling out right now. The process is 60 days before we do the betas. We make the announcements, we bring the beta users in, again, work with the willing, and then we stage the deployments and focus on rollout.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dave. I think next year maybe you can apply for the EOAI award.
You guys will be the judge of that.
I would encourage you to submit. We don't know how far you're going to get, but I think it sounds very great.
There's a way to win it.
There's a way to win it. But Dave, thanks first of all for joining this session. We are going to see you later on during the ceremony for the best AI use case within EO. So thank you so much for now. And we're going to see you later after our next speaker, Lewis.